My graduation dinner was supposed to be nothing more than a quiet meal. A couple photos, a cheap little restaurant, my parents pretending we were one of those families that had their life together. We hadn't even warmed the seats when the entire night detonated. My grandpa, the only person who'd ever looked at me like I was worth something, lifted his glass and asked, "Lisa, how's the $850,000 I saved for your education working out?" My aunt's fork hit her plate. My parents froze. And me? It felt like the floor slid out from under me. I had never heard of a fund. Not a dollar of it, not a whisper about it. I didn't even know Grandpa had planned anything like that. Before I tell you what happened after that, tell me, where are you watching from? And honestly, what would you have done if an entire future meant for you was stolen without you realizing it? My childhood taught me early that our family only looks stable from a distance. Inside, everything tilted in one direction, toward my older sister, Megan. She was the golden one, the child my parents bragged about, invested in, protected. They never told me I'd fail. They just never acted like I'd succeed. Their silence stung sharper than anything they could have said aloud. By middle school, the routine was set. Megan got tutors, support, second chances. I got lectures about hard work. She got a used car when she turned 16. I got a planner and a speech about responsibility. I didn't resent her. I just kept shrinking, wondering why asking for help felt like I was asking for too much. College only widened the gap. I juggled shifts at a campus cafe and classes, scraping by on loan paperwork and whatever energy I had left after closing shifts. I smelled like coffee more than I smelled like myself. Whenever I tried to hint that I needed help, textbooks, rent, anything, my mom sighed. "You know how tight everything is right now." Dad nodded like he was agreeing with the script he'd memorized. But somehow, things were never too tight for Megan. She got help with her apartment deposit, then her car repairs, then funding for a business idea that fizzled out. Every time I brought up how uneven things felt, they made me feel childish for even noticing. So I told myself I was strong enough to carry what they wouldn't help me with. I believed that, right up until the night everything cracked open. Looking back, there were warning signs I kept ignoring. Tiny moments that didn't make sense at the time. Like the afternoon I stopped by my parents' house and saw an envelope with Grandpa's name tossed in a garage bin under holiday decorations. I reached for it, curious. Before I could flip it over, Mom rushed in, snatched it, and shoved it into a drawer she always kept locked. "It's just old papers," she said with a too tight smile. I didn't know why her voice shook. I didn't understand why she needed to hide it. I just swallowed the unease like I always did. Grandpa, my dad's father, lived in another city. He wasn't a man of many words, but every birthday card he ever sent me had one handwritten line. "Keep going. I believe in you." I had no idea he'd been quietly building something for me. I had no idea he trusted my parents with it. And on the night of my graduation dinner, I had no clue why my dad kept glancing at the entrance, nervous like he was waiting to be caught. In the weeks before graduation, something in our family's atmosphere shifted. Mom started watching me with these quick, nervous flashes in her eyes. Dad suddenly cared about my rent, my classes, my schedule. As if he was gathering information for a report he hoped I'd never see. I thought it was pride. Maybe they were finally noticing how hard I'd worked. Maybe the moment meant something to them. Then Megan pulled up to Sunday lunch in a brand new SUV with leather seats and the kind of touchscreen that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. When I asked how she afforded it, she laughed and said her business had finally taken off. Before I could ask anything else, Mom jumped in with compliments and distractions, steering the conversation like she was terrified I'd asked the wrong question. I let it slide, but something ugly twisted in my stomach. A few days later, I returned a mixing bowl Mom insisted was hers, and again wandered past that cabinet in the garage where she'd shoved Grandpa's envelope. The moment replayed itself in my mind all night. Her panic. Her lie. The drawer she'd locked. What were they hiding? The night before graduation, the answer began to surface. I was heading to the kitchen for water when I heard my parents fighting in low, sharp voices. Dad said, "We can't keep this quiet forever." Mom shot back, "She doesn't need to know. Megan needs stability." I froze. She doesn't need to know. Know what? Why did my sister's comfort always come at a cost I never agreed to pay? For the first time in my life, the thought hit me like a punch. Maybe the reason they could never help me wasn't because they couldn't. Maybe it was because they wouldn't. I barely slept that night. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment I'd ignored. The envelope, the new SUV, the nervous glances, the arguments, the money they swore they never had for me. By morning I felt hollow but clear. Something had been taken from me. Something huge. And whatever it was, my parents were terrified I'd find out. I just didn't know yet that by the end of dinner, their entire secret would explode in a way none of us could ever take back. I had promised myself I wouldn't dig for answers, at least not until after graduation. I just wanted one day free of questions. One day where I could exist as a graduate instead of a daughter caught between duty and disappointment. But that calm never arrived. Instead, I woke up with a weight in my chest that made even the sunlight feel heavy. Mom knocked on my door earlier than I expected, her voice far too cheerful, as if she were trying to force happiness into the room. Dad hovered behind her, pretending to scroll on his phone, though the screen was black. The air in the hallway felt thick, tense, almost suffocating. I tried to block it out, to focus on the ceremony, but my body was alert, bracing for a storm I couldn't yet see. On campus, Megan was annoyingly bubbly, grabbing my arm for pictures and whispering, "Today's all about you, sis." Her smile was too perfect, rehearsed. Mom instantly moved to fuss over her hair, her praises a reminder that even on my day, I wasn't the center. I swallowed the sting and forced a smile. Today I wanted it to be mine. After the ceremony, my parents insisted on going straight to the restaurant. Dad kept glancing at his watch. Mom smoothed her blouse obsessively. Megan fiddled with her phone. I assumed they were just anxious to eat, but soon I realized it was something darker. They were afraid of someone showing up. When we arrived, it became clear why Dad had been watching the entrance so closely. Grandpa was there, sitting at a corner table, smiling warmly when he saw me. I hadn't expected him and didn't know he even knew the reservation. Mom's face stiffened immediately. Megan froze mid-step. Dad's laugh was tight and brittle. The tension shifted, electric, something I felt deep in my bones before I could even think. Grandpa pulled me into a hug and whispered how proud he was. His voice grounded me, made me feel steady for the first time that morning. But the unease surrounding us was impossible to ignore. Mom fiddled with her napkin. Megan whispered under her breath. Dad shook his head. My instincts flared. Whatever secret they were hiding had something to do with Grandpa. During appetizers, Grandpa asked about school and work. I answered without hesitation, savoring the brief moment of normalcy. But when the topic turned to student loans, time seemed to pause. Mom froze mid-bite. Megan's eyes widened. Dad cleared his throat like the world had suddenly grown heavier. Grandpa's expression tightened subtly, and a sinking feeling rooted itself in my chest. Something crucial had been withheld from me, something involving money, and for once I wasn't going to carry the confusion alone. Instead of retreating like I always had, I watched. Every twitch, every forced smile, every panicked glance. I didn't ask yet, I didn't need to. The old me, the one who accepted half-truths, was gone. A sharper, steadier version had emerged, ready to confront whatever they had been concealing. By the time the main courses arrived, the atmosphere had transformed from celebratory to electric, tense. Mom barely touched her food. Dad wiped his glasses repeatedly. Megan's fingers scrolled endlessly across her phone, yet she kept stealing glances at Grandpa. The storm was coming, and everyone except me seemed aware of it. Grandpa set down his fork, straightened his posture, and raised his glass, eyes locking on mine. "Lisa," he said softly, warm but serious, "I need to ask you something important." My chest tightened. Mom's breath hitched. Time slowed. And then came the words that would fracture my world. "Are you using the $850,000 I saved for your education?" The restaurant seemed to vanish around me. Forks clattered. Chairs scraped. Eyes turned. Dad's smile froze. Mom's color drained. Megan's grip on her phone faltered. My voice emerged without permission, distant and hollow. Grandpa leaned closer, confused. "You didn't know?" He turned toward my parents, deliberate and slow. "You didn't tell her?" Mom shook her head violently, as if denying the impossible. "We told her. A long time ago." "No," I whispered. "You never said a word." Grandpa's warm eyes sharpened into steel. "Interesting," he said quietly. "The bank says someone's been withdrawing the funds." The words crashed like thunder. Dad choked. Mom's hand trembled, dropping her napkin. Megan froze mid-scroll. My heart pounded in my ears. Grandpa leaned forward, calm but unwavering. The fund has been drawn down for months, he said, each word precise, slicing through the tension. And in that moment I realized nothing would ever be the same. The restaurant felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was holding its breath. Grandpa's gaze locked onto me, and the quiet hum of diners faded into nothing. Large withdrawals, he said slowly, each word deliberate. Regular withdrawals, none of them came from you. Dad opened his mouth, searching for words, but nothing came out. Dad, you're misunderstanding, he tried. No, Grandpa cut in sharply, his voice low but charged with fury. Silence fell across the room. I double-checked. I called the bank. I verified every transaction. None of these withdrawals were authorized by my granddaughter. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, her face paling. Grandpa turned his icy glare to me. Lisa, did you ever sign anything? Did you ever give them permission? No, I whispered. Never. Megan shifted uneasily in her chair, her voice light and forced. Grandpa, maybe the bank made a mistake. You know how they are. One look from him shut her up immediately. Her mouth snapped closed. Grandpa's attention snapped back to my parents, eyes sharp, demanding. Tell me the truth. Now. Dad's shoulders slumped. Mom closed her eyes tightly, as though bracing for impact. Megan looked between them, expecting someone else to fix what she knew was broken. Finally, Dad spoke, voice trembling. We didn't have a choice. She needed help. Megan's head whipped toward him. Dad. No, he stammered. We thought we had to tell him. Grandpa's jaw tightened. Tell me what? Mom broke first. Tears rolled down her cheeks. We thought Lisa didn't need it. She always handled herself. She worked. She managed. Megan was struggling, she needed support. And you weren't around to see that. I wasn't around because I trusted you, Grandpa said quietly. I trusted you to protect what was hers. Megan slammed her hand on the table. Why does it matter? It's family money. We used it for family things. My stomach twisted. What things? I asked. A heavy silence. Finally, Dad muttered. Down payment on Megan's condo, her car. Some of her business expenses, groceries bills, emergencies. Emergencies. I echoed, disbelief sharp. You mean spa days, shopping trips, fancy furniture? Mom's sobs grew louder. Not from guilt but from being exposed. You stole from your own daughter. Grandpa's voice trembled with quiet rage. You stole from me. And you lied. Megan tried again. Grandpa, stop. I'm your granddaughter too. Don't act like I don't matter. You matter, he said coldly. But not more than your sister, not at the cost of her future. Dad reached out weakly. We plan to pay it back eventually. No, Grandpa interrupted, standing abruptly, chair screeching. You plan to hide it forever. All eyes turned to him. Lisa, you're coming with me tomorrow morning, he said, pointing firmly. We're going to the bank. Then to my attorney. Mom gasped. No, Dad, please. Grandpa's finger shook slightly with anger. You had years to think about consequences. Now you'll face them. Dad sank into his chair, defeated. Megan's eyes darted between us, panic rising. This isn't fair. I needed that help. I felt no rage, no collapse, no scream. I just sat there, something inside me settling into a cold, steady understanding of betrayal. Grandpa rested a gentle hand on my shoulder. You deserved a future. They stole it from you. But I'll fix this. Mom buried her face in her hands. Dad stared blankly at his plate. Megan glared at me, furious, as if my very existence had ruined her life. But for the first time I didn't shrink. I met their stares. The only thing I could manage, I said firmly. I won't let you take anything else from me. Grandpa squeezed my shoulder. You won't have to. Under the soft glow of restaurant lights, our family's fragile facade splintered piece by piece. The next morning I met Grandpa outside the bank. He looked older, tired, but steadier than anyone I'd ever known. Inside, the manager confirmed the withdrawals, the forged signatures, the clear trail pointing to my parents. Grandpa froze the accounts immediately, requested printed statements, and calmly scheduled a meeting with his attorney. No yelling, no threats, just quiet, firm accountability. At the attorney's office, the full extent was revealed. My parents had drained nearly all the funds, spending it on Megan's condo, her car, and months of unrelated expenses. The attorney outlined restitution, legal documentation, and a new fund established solely under my name, protected and untouchable. That evening, Grandpa visited my small apartment. He apologized not for their choices but for trusting the wrong people. I told him no apology was owed. The betrayal wasn't his. For the first time in years I felt steady. Not because everything was fixed but because the truth was finally mine. In the following weeks my parents tried calling, apologizing, rewriting the story in every way they could. I didn't argue. I kept my distance, letting the truth do the work. Grandpa's fund gave me stability, but his honesty gave me something bigger: permission to protect myself.